What's your record on solving Rubik's Cube? Do you know the world record to solve Rubik's Cube? Just 3.47 seconds. A Chinese speedcuber, Yu Shengdu, set the record in 2018 on the World Cube Association competition. But there are two people who beat that record unofficially. There are recordings of a 14-year-old Filipino speedcuber who solved it in 2.78 seconds and a 12-year-old Chinese boy who managed to finish in 2.68 seconds. I bet you don't know who invented the Rubik's Cube. It hasn't been around for too long. Your grandparents didn't have it growing up. A Hungarian sculptor, Erno Rubik, invented the cube in 1974. He is a designer and he's always liked three-dimensional objects. At the age of 29, while just playing around with blocks and strings in his bedroom, Mr. Rubik created the cube's structure. He got an idea to make the cube, used 26 different cubes, marked each side of it with stickers, and started to play around, rearranging them. The colors got mixed, which looked great and colorful, but then he wanted it back in order with each side being one color. But bringing it back turned out to be a real catch. That's when Mr. Rubik realized he had just invented a puzzle. What's funny is that it took Mr. Rubik a whole month to find a solution to his puzzle. His solution was based on aligning the 8 corner cubies first. And then he applied for the patent. The first Rubik's Cubes were produced in late 1977. Do you know how the Rubik's Cube was originally called? Magic Cube. But later the name was changed to patent it in other countries. How many possible arrangements does the standard 3x3 cube have? 43 quintillion. Here's the exact number. To put it into perspective, if you turn it once a second, you will need 1.4 trillion years to go through all possible arrangements. It's 100 times more than exist in the universe. It may sound surprising, but the Rubik's Cube wasn't an immediate success. No one was interested in Rubik's Cubes because they were just stored in boxes on fairs, among other toys. But one seller saw their potential, and he decided to bet on the puzzle and promote it. The team started to present the cubes, showing how to solve it, and soon enough, the cube became a raging success. Now the Rubik's Cube is one of the best-selling toys in history, together with Hot Wheels, Barbies, Cabbage Patch Dolls, and Legos. Over the decades, over 450 million cubes were sold worldwide. The first Rubik's Cube world record was set in 1982 by a student who solved it in 22.95 seconds. I have to admit that back in the day, this speed was unachievable because the original cube was way harder to rotate, which was significantly decreasing the speed. The modern models are way more upgraded. They have better rotation mechanisms and magnets that allow the cubies to snap into position. This way, a speedcuber doesn't have to rotate all the way and can perform up to 12 turns in just 1 second. What do you think? How fast can a robot solve it? In 2018, a couple of MIT students built a Rubik's Cube solving robot. It needed just 0.38 seconds. It has a considerable advantage in speed compared to humans. It can make 55 turns in a second, which is 5 times faster than a person. Another thing is that the machine solves the cube very accurately, every time placing the cubies precisely. Speedcubers use the technique when they cut corners to save time. It means that they don't finish the turn before starting the next one, since the next one will put the previous one into place anyway. If humans could reach the machine's speed, the fact of cutting corners due to limited precision will only make the cube break apart. But 3 seconds is still quite impressive. I can only do it for an hour, and if I have the cheat sheet on how to solve it. Did you know who else is obsessed with the cube except teenagers? Mathematicians have been mesmerized by it for decades now. They've been busy trying to find the most efficient algorithm to solve the cube. There are many techniques. The original solution of Mr. Rubik himself is to first align the 8 corners. The most common one is to complete the top layer first. This one requires up to 120 twists to solve the puzzle. How many moves does the most efficient technique require to solve the cube? Mathematicians have calculated that that would be 22 twists. Funnily enough, the technique hasn't been discovered yet. So maybe you could be the one to come up with it. And considering that it's possible to make 12 moves in a second, you would then solve the cube in under 2 seconds and beat the new world record. But yeah, the fastest technique yet discovered requires 52 twists. The fun thing about it is that until the very end, the cube seems to be all messed up and then suddenly, everything falls into place with just a couple of last twists. The technique was discovered by British mathematician Morwen B. Thistle, who came up with it using a computer and the rules of a group theory. Did you know who wrote one of the best books for beginners to learn on how to solve the Rubik's Cube? It was written by a teenage boy. The book is called You Can Do the Cube. In 1981, a 13-year-old schoolboy came up with a solution for the cube and created a cheat sheet for his friends, which was very simple and could be understood by novices. One of the kids showed it to his father, who worked for a publishing company. The father liked it so much that the boy turned it into a published book. It became a bestseller. Have you heard of a Rubik's snake? After the cube, Rubik kept producing toys. Unfortunately, nothing could beat the success of the cube. But this snake is also quite popular, and you can twist it around to produce different shapes. Did you know that you can participate in speedcubing championships? The first one was organized by the Guinness Book of Records and was held in 1981 in Munich, Germany. The next year, it was already a world championship held in Budapest. After the 1982 World Championship, the next one took place in 2003 in Toronto. Afterwards, there was a World Championship every 2 years. Traditionally, each participant solved the cube 5 times, and the average on the middle 3 performances is counted as the final time and determines the winner. So, the record holder might not be the winner of the competition, but, of course, the record goes into history. I bet you didn't know that there's also other variations of solving events. One of them is blindfolded solving. The contestant first looks at the cube to determine the state of the cube and think of the strategy. Then they get blindfolded and solve it. The time runs all the time, examining the cube before getting blindfolded and after it until the person solves the cube. The record is 14.61 seconds. It was set on March 23, 2022 in Orlando. Another variation is cube solving only using one hand. The record here is 6.83 seconds. The Rubik's Cube also has many variations. The standard one is 3x3x3. There is also a 4x4x4 cube called Rubik's Revenge. It was invented in 1981, 7 years after the original one. The record of solving this one is 17.42 seconds. The 5x5x5 cube is called the Professor's Cube, and the record is 33.02 seconds. The 6x6x6 cube is called V-Cube 6 with a record of 1 minute and 9 seconds. The 7x7x7 is called a V-Cube 7 with a record of 1 minute and 40 seconds. The record of all these variations are helped by one person, an American speedcuber, Max Park. There's also a 2x2x2 cube, a pocket cube. The record is held by a Polish speedcuber and stands at 0.49 seconds. I was surprised, but turns out, to make the cube rotate faster, the contestants lubricate it with oil. It is allowed to do it in the championships too. And still, people find even more crazy ways to solve the cube. In 2003, Dan Knights solved the cube in 40 seconds during a free fall before opening the parachute.
Ooh, the tension is rising. Everyone is glaring at you from their seats. The spotlight is illuminating you and the dozens of other Rubik's Cubes on the table. Sweat is dripping from your face. The timer is set and goes off. You instantly grab a level 1 cube and begin fiddling with your fingers until you get the right combination. A level 1 cube is easy, as it only requires a few moves to get the colors on each side. In general, the best way to solve a Rubik's Cube is to get the white square in the center and keep it facing up. And then you have to create a cross while using the white center square as the midpoint, while also moving the other colors in a cross shape. Look for a white piece at the bottom of the cube. If it's a corner piece, then don't go for it. Preferably, go for the piece that will make the shape of a cross. Next, move it along while keeping it on the bottom until it's lined up, and then move it 180 degrees. You'll solve a straight line from the white squares on the top part where you had the white centerpiece. The next part is a bit tricky, as you'll be getting the rest of the cross to form. Make sure you don't disrupt the original line that you formed. study the layout, and try to find the other white pieces scattered around. This step might make you feel like you're shifting the entire formation, but switch the top part counterclockwise after getting your targeted white piece to the right side. After this part, you'll have to search for the last piece to form the cross. It might be in the middle of the bottom. If it is in the middle, you can move it downward to the bottom and then bring it back up until you get yourself the cross. By achieving this, you'll also have the center squares adjacent to their respective colors and in a cross shape like the white pieces. Take your left thumb and place it on the center of the cube and your right finger on the bottom with the other right finger on the top part to get ready to do some shifting. Start by turning the right side upward. Use your right index finger and pull the top part towards you. Then you have to turn the right side back down. And finally, use the left index finger to turn the top part also towards you. Then just keep repeating these steps until you start seeing some combinations and color matching. So that was the action with your right hand. Now you got to figure out the left hand technique. Get your fingers in position by placing your right thumb on the center of the cube and your left thumb and middle finger on the bottom and top respectively. Twist the cube upward with your left hand and then pull the top to rotate towards you. Twist the part again downward with your left hand and then use your right index finger to pull the top part towards you. You'll be making a constant circular motion with both the left and right hands. Repeat this step for a while. The next step is to search for a white part in the top corner. Make sure to pay attention to other colors adjacent to it. Since they're next to the white color, you'll need to figure out where they have to go. Check the centers and see if the colors that are adjacent to the white piece are sitting nicely in the centers of the cube. The white center square should be in the same place as the beginning, and if the colors green and orange are adjacent to it, then you should see green in one center and orange in another center. This means that the orange piece should move toward the orange center and the green piece toward the green center. To move them to their spots, you can use the right-hand combination moves that you used earlier and repeat the motion until they're there. At this point, you should have the white squares completely on one side. After this, search for the yellow centerpiece and try to find the pieces around it that don't have it. You may find orange and blue stuck together on a top piece. If you do, you'll have to move them away. Use your right hand to separate them with the same right-hand combination you made earlier. And then you'll have to do the same combination with your left hand. The white part will remain on the side of the cube and the other colors will start to take shape and be more centered on a certain side. Keep searching for two pieces that aren't the same color on the cube and repeat the combinations until they're all placed in their color category. But you'll have one completely random side. Now, don't panic, this is part of the process. Keep the part of the random colors on the top, turn the layer in front of you clockwise, and then repeat the right-hand combination. After that, turn the layer facing you counterclockwise once. If you get an L shape on the top, then rotate it until the corner of the L is facing the top left corner of the cube. Next, repeat this step by turning the front layer clockwise, right-hand combination, and then undo the front layer back to how it was. You're almost done. Now you'll have the yellow cross on the top side. The next step is lining up the rest of the pieces. Depending on how you did it, you can either line up all 4 or just 2. If you have 2 solved crosses, place them on the back side and your right side. Move the right layer up and then the top layer to the left, and then put the right side back down. Move the top layer once more to the left and then move the right side back up. Move the left piece back to the right again, and you'll see that 80% of the colors have now filled their places. So you can now line everything else. Look at the corner pieces and see if the three colors that make the outer corner are in their right spots. If none are in the right spot, then you'll have to do another combination to get them in their corresponding spots. Get the right side up and use your left index finger to pull the top layer towards you and then the left layer up. Next, do the same thing, except move the right side down and the left side down too. If nothing is in its correct spot, then repeat the steps. Now you're in the home stretch. Most of the sides will be solved, so you'll just have to figure whatever is left out one by one. Take the most jumbled up part and place it at the bottom. This will require you to make the right-hand combination moves to solve the corner squares. Make these moves without rotating the cube, or else you'll have to start over. Continue this and voila! You did it! This is a basic Rubik's Cube, and solving any cube is just a matter of following these steps. So, everyone is watching you complete the steps in a matter of seconds. Your fingers are blazing through the cubes that they can't even see them sharply. But after solving the first few, you start to get odd shapes like pyramids and polygons. They may seem intimidating, but they actually follow the same steps and principles as a regular Rubik's Cube. It doesn't matter the shape or how many colors and layers. It all comes down to the technique and sharpness of the person solving it. The next shapes are extremely odd and uneven. It will take a bit more time to understand the shape, but eventually you'll just whiz through it and impress the crowd. Your fingers are tired from making all the moves and combinations. You take a break and see them roll out the final cube to solve. The crowd is in shock. The colors are completely scrambled, and you have only 3 minutes to solve this. You take some time to study it, but your mind feels like scrambled eggs. Well, you're face to face with the biggest puzzle on the planet and had no idea it even existed. Now, even though it might look intimidating, it also follows the same steps and moves. The countdown begins and you start solving it. After completing the first couple of steps, you accidentally mess up and have to start over from the beginning. You compose yourself and then continue. Only 30 seconds left and you're solving the corner. With 3 seconds to go, you finally solve it. You solved level 1 to 100 and are now crowned the champion. Ooh, pretty cool. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.